Hey there, Cowboys fans. Thank you all so much for clicking on today's video. We're going to get into some rumors. Geno Atkins, Richard Sherman, and Cedric Wilson here in a second. Before that, though, if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. We here at the Cowboys Report are putting out videos every single day for you guys. So if you want all the latest news, rumors, segments, practice updates, all of it, hit that big red button and subscribe. Let's get things going with some Geno Atkins talk around the Dallas Cowboys. Ian Rapoport, probably on accident, caused some drama around the Cowboys. This one is just the one star, however. Now, the background here is that Rapoport tweeted out that Atkins was meeting with the Cowboys team doctor and kind of forgot to mention something very important, or at least immediately did. That, at least it wasn't clear. This is not a team visit with the Dallas Cowboys. Rather, it just so happens that the Dallas Cowboys team doctor, Dan Cooper, was the one who performed Atkins' rotator cuff surgery. So this is the normal checkup with the doctor who performed the surgery. The immediate reaction was, meeting with the team doctor, oh my God, Cowboys, Atkins. Kind of got spun out of control a little bit there. Now, make no mistake, the Cowboys will end up with some really great insight into Geno Atkins. They will know for certain what the medical stuff looks like. I mean, Cooper is the one who performed the surgery, after all. But this is not a team visit. Now, could the Cowboys have interest? Sure, we'll see. But I do want to make this note very clear. With the timing of the surgery, with the Atkins we've seen in recent years, he's not going to be expensive. Even after a disastrous 2020, which he barely played one tackle, that's all you saw out of Atkins. Last time we saw him in a full season, 2019, it was still not the same Pro Bowl, borderline all-pro caliber of player we saw out of Geno Atkins in his prime. You can go way, way back on this channel. We were talking about trade targets. Many of you were like, trade for Geno Atkins. I always told you, he was getting cut. That was always going to happen. Even if you get 4.5 sacks out of him again, which I think is a somewhat realistic target, that's not worth that much money at his age and with where we're at in the NFL offseason cycle. Beyond that, the Cowboys have made roster moves on the defensive line. And I think in particular, they want to see what some of these young guys can do in more of that pass rusher 3-technique role. That mold fits Trysten Hill so well. Osa Odighizuwa very well. And could also fit Neville Gallimore, who I'm very curious to see exactly what his role looks like, given his potential fit in the Dan Quinn defense. So Gallimore, I am excited to see more opportunities for. This Cowboys roster in general, I think they're going to make the move to younger players. They're going to see what Neville Gallimore can do. If they don't want to move on from Trysten Hill yet, I think he gets a shot to show what he can do in his third DC and defensive line coach in as many years. His pressure rate improved substantially. The impact was there more frequently, just coming off an injury. We'll see. And the biggest reason why I think it's a bit unlikely that the Cowboys choose to go after Geno Atkins is they spent a third-round pick on Osa Odighizuwa, who I think will play a similar role to what Atkins would play if, hypothetically, he were to sign. I think he will offer you some pass rush value. Now, if there are injuries, if the youngsters are not coming back from their own injury or they struggle or Quinn does not think they're a fit anymore, maybe you could see a change there. I think in the short term, in the immediate interest, I'm not sure there's really a role in a roster spot right now for Geno Atkins because the Cowboys want to give those young guys a chance. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want Geno Atkins? Get your votes in for me. Type in Y for yes you do, or type in N for you want to go in a different direction altogether. Let's chat Richard Sherman now here on the Dallas Cowboys Report, and I kind of missed this when it came out earlier this week. Mike McCarthy went on the Chris Collinsworth PFF podcast, was asked about Richard Sherman, and as you'll see in a second, I thought his comment was pretty indicative of where the Cowboys are at. What I've said for a while now, it's 1 star. It could change. It's still early in the offseason cycle, preseason cycle, whatever you want to call it there. I'd be a bit surprised, though, if it actually went down. Here was McCarthy's rather long quote. Quote, well, the one thing we talk about all the time, we're always looking. We're always looking to upgrade and to add. There's no question there. But also the salary cap, what's in front of us too, is something that we're very focused on. I think that's why you saw, the 11 draft picks were by design. To be able to select, we had 10 going in, but to be able to have 11 selections this year was very important just in the big picture and the long-term planning for our roster development. So we're always looking, but I love the competition we have on the back end. It'll be fun to see how this all sorts out. McCarthy mentioned the back end, cornerback position, and draft picks. They spent 2 top 100 selections on corners. They drafted Kelvin Joseph. They drafted Nahshon Wright. Those 2 guys are going to make your team. Trevon Diggs, he's making your team. They just paid Jordan Lewis. That's 4 at minimum roster locks. Reggie Robinson was a 4th-round pick last year. Anthony Brown, the way his contract is getting paid out, is probably going to make this team as well. Not a guarantee, but I think he's probably a bit safer there. There's a numbers game at the cornerback position, both short-term with the dudes on the roster and long-term with a lot of youth. So if you want a Richard Sherman, you got to move Anthony Brown. And if you want to play Kelvin Joseph early, like I think many of you guys do, well, what exactly ends up even being the role at that point for Richard Sherman? So because of the numbers game and the youth on the roster, even though it would be nice to have a veteran mentor like Sherman, I'm not convinced he's really in the plan as things sit. If injuries happen, if the young guys don't come along, that could be revisited. So what do you guys want to do then? Do you want to sign Richard Sherman? Type in 1 for yes you do, or type in 0 for no, you want to go in a different direction. Now, Sherman last year, all these stats coming from our friends over at Pro Football Focus, wasn't great. Now, I will make note that PFF, much higher on Sherman from a coverage stats standpoint. Maybe there's some disagreement as to who was to blame there, but he's still a good player. I don't know if you're going to get prime Richard Sherman, the guy we saw back in 2019, who was just still one of the better corners in the NFL. I like Sherman a lot. I think he would be a good veteran mentor presence for the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't know in the end if that's really the path the Cowboys are going to pursue. Because of that numbers game, because of where they're at overall with the roster and everything else, I just don't know if Sherman is a fit at the current moment. That could change, but right now, I'm not going to get my hopes up. You guys should download the News Break app because Cowboys Report videos are on there, and you can stay in the know with what's going on in your community. So download the app today, right there, bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/CowboysNB. And don't worry, we'll put that link in the comment section and in the description. Not just Cowboys videos, but as I mentioned, essential local news updates. Because if you're like me, you never actually got the paper delivered to you because it's 2021, but you still should probably do a better job of staying in the know, updated, be knowledgeable with what's going on in your community. And the Newsbreak app sends all of that right to your phone. So download it today at chatsports.com/CowboysNB. Let's talk trade here, at least a little bit briefly. How about dumping Cedric Wilson? This idea floated out there by Blogging the Boys. I'm going to give it 2 stars. Now, it's way too early to decide one way or the other, and it depends what happens in camp, preseason, etc., but it's at least worth discussing here. Now, I would consider Cedric Wilson to be the favorite, at least the early favorite here, to be wide receiver 4 for the Dallas Cowboys. But we know how Catboy loves his salary cap space. They could save almost $2.2 million by trading him. He has a non-guaranteed $2.18 million base salary. Now, I don't think you'd get much for him. I think you'd be getting back a late-ish day 3 selection. It would also leave you thinner at punt returner as well. But if other youngsters impress, at least consider it to save the money and get a draft pick back in exchange. So what do you guys want to do then with Cedric Wilson? Get your votes in for me. Type T for trade him, type K for keep him, or type it C for cut him. Now, Wilson in 2020, I would argue in general, was better with Dak Prescott. Shocking, I know. But $2.2 million is a lot to pay for a guy, even if he improves on these figures. 17 catches, 189, and 2 scores. I like Wilson. I do, don't get me wrong. I think he's a very solid number 4 receiver. The question is, do the Cowboys want to pay Wilson that price tag? And or could they find a team who wants to bring him on and give him a potentially bigger role? Obviously, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, when healthy, are going to play over Cedric Wilson. Like, that's a no-brainer. But there's also Noah Brown, who could be cut, but is also way cheaper than Cedric Wilson. They signed a bunch of undrafted free agents, TJ Vasher, Brandon Smith, Osiris Mitchell, Brennan Eagles. They brought back guys like Malik Turner and Aaron Parker, at least for the time being. I think in the end, Wilson, whether or not he makes this team or not, is going to be done in heavily to those undrafted free agents, but also Simi Fehoko. If the rookie out of Stanford, day 3 pick, impresses, if he shows, hey, I can be wide receiver 4 on this team, maybe the Cowboys accelerate their timeline when it comes to Wilson on this roster. Now, if there's an injury, if one of those key guys above Cedric Wilson get hurt, well, then you're definitely not going to take that approach. But if everyone stays healthy, if the young guys impress, and the Cowboys want room for Fehoko and maybe another undrafted player, a trade of Cedric Wilson could make sense.